Oh, how's it going, Dolphins Nation, fellow Miami Dolphins fans? We'll get going here in just a second. I'm pulling some stuff up for some of my notes. Um, let's see. Got some things to talk about today. I'm gonna start trying to make this kind of my time every week. Get on here and live stream. Still obviously going to be putting out all my videos, 2 or 3 a week, like normal. And I'm going to be on Curtis's channel, Ace Per Head. And I'll be doing that every single Monday. As long as he does it, I'll be there. And that's at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to do my streams about 8:45 Eastern every Tuesday. I've been doing streams, whenever I get a chance, but I need to kind of lock down a time. So Tuesday, 8:45, that's going to be my usual live stream time. For those of you that are interested in it. And tomorrow, I will be on Finn's Forecast. It's a newer channel. Josh and the guys that run that channel do an amazing job. I'm going to be over there talking about my thoughts on the draft, and they're going to talk about theirs. It's going to be a good time. So tomorrow, let's see, make sure I get this time right before I spew it. It'll be 6:30 Eastern. I'll be over there on their channel. If you haven't checked out Finn's Forecast, it's PHINS Forecast. Check them out on YouTube. They're a newer channel, but they do a fantastic job, and their roundtable type discussions is usually pretty entertaining. A lot of good information. They're smart guys, and got a sense of humor. So if you get a chance, go check them out. That's where I'll be tomorrow around 6:30, and hope to have a video out either Thursday or Friday. Kind of covering some stuff as we move into this free agency period / rookie training camp period and everything else that's going on right now. This is an interesting time for us as Dolphins fans, and any team right now. Any fans of any team have the same kind of stuff going on. But I don't know how much you guys have noticed about the mainstream sports media and how they've ranked our draft and what they think about it, and how they've ranked the draft and for the other teams in the AFC East. And man, what a joke. I'm blown away at the difference in thought process for what the Miami Dolphins did in the draft. I don't see how anybody could give the Dolphins a D rating, which seems to be the major rating that most people in mainstream media are giving. Mel Kiper did give us an A+. So shout out to Mel Kiper for kind of seeing the big picture. Most people in the mainstream media, so Fox Sports and CBS Sports and NBC Sports and ESPN and NFL Network, even they're dipping their toes into the kiddie pool at a water park and writing a review about the entire water park by it. They don't get deep enough into team needs, team attitude, identity, things like that, schemes and player needs. They just don't get deep enough into it to make real educated, evaluations of how the draft went for the Miami Dolphins, let alone any team. So those guys really have no business making a ranking for a team, any team. It's the same for every team. They have no idea what they're talking about most of the time, and it's not really it's because they're trying to keep a wide view, and in that wide fisheye view of the NFL, they're not getting very focused pictures of any NFL team, really. Short of the ones that, win a Super Bowl, like the Eagles or the Chiefs, or teams that are perennially winning their division, like the Bills. They don't pay enough attention. So nobody gets super offended or upset. Just chalk it up to the fact that they're NFL infants. As much as they think that they're the professionals and the most experienced and knowledgeable on the sport, they are infantile in their evaluations. And just wanted to preface that into this before I start talking about, I'm not going to get too much into the draft. We've talked about it a lot already on my channel. Talked about it on Ace Per Head's channel during the live streams during the draft. And you guys all know how I feel about this draft. I gave it an A- to a B+ rating. And you guys know that I've been beating this whole mindset and identity thing to a bloody pulp on my channel, and I'll continue to do that because that's a super important thing to have on a team, right? It doesn't get any less important than what it is on this team. It's super important for us, especially with the things that have been going on and the need for beefcakes, big players, big offensive linemen, big defensive linemen, fighters, people who play like pissed off teenagers. I'm going to keep saying that phrase because it's perfect for what we need. We need players like that. And that's what this draft was. Every single player we drafted, they all have the same mentality, the same attitude. And that mentality and attitude coming from the players that we drafted hopefully is going to be the start to a change in identity for this team. I'll tell you what we did do in the draft. We got tougher. Definitely. We got a lot tougher. And knowing that instantly means that no matter what the players were, if I saw that we were getting tougher and bigger, I would instantly give this draft a B minimum. So with that and the players we drafted, I'm going A- officially. Might be able to talk me into giving them a B+, but I'm going to stick A-. That's, what I think. It was a good draft. It's not something we're used to seeing. A draft focused on that kind of player, that kind of mentality. So it was good. But now we're sitting here and the draft is over. We addressed a lot of needs in the draft. However, there are obviously still some needs. And before the draft started, what did I say? I said there's no way they're going to cover all their needs in the draft. It wasn't going to happen. I knew that it wasn't going to happen, and most of you did too. But that measuring stick that we had of just this huge, width of things that we needed on this team, it got a little smaller. Now we got, a much more narrow field of view that we need to work on before the season starts. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's what you need to do in the draft. I mean, ideally, yes, you make a draft with 10 players or 8 players or 7 players, whatever. Doesn't matter. But ideally, you'd make a draft like that, and in a perfect world, you'd get 7 starters. Or if you drafted 8 people, you'd get 8 starters. But in reality, and in the NFL, that's just not how things work out. So to expect, every player we draft to be a starter, that's unrealistic, and the way I see it, I see the first 2 rounds of our draft, we got starters. Guaranteed. Savannah will start. Kenneth Grant will start. So knowing that our first 2 draft picks are starters, no matter what, they're going to be starters. Guaranteed. And knowing that our 5th round picks, some people don't like some of our 5th round picks. I do. And tomorrow, when I go on Finn's Forecast to talk with them during their live stream about the draft, and we're going to dive into these players, and we're going to get pretty involved in it. You're going to see why I like the players that we picked up in the 5th round. But I'll touch right now on Jordan Phillips, the first pick in our 5th round. He's going to be a contributor, guaranteed. He's going to make the team, and he's going to play every game. Is he going to start? Probably not. Could he start if other people get injured? Yes, definitely. He's going to be a contributor. The man is a beast. And like I said, knowing what we did with our last picks, with Trader Jr., the safety. Some people don't like him. I do. Extremely underrated. Would have been much higher up in the draft had he not had that injury right before the draft. He's going to be fine for the season, obviously. But he was going to go in the top 100. And then the injury happened. And of course, he dropped a little bit. So we got a steal out of him. I'm excited for it. I'm excited. And this is the weird part. The thing that most people don't even want to talk about is our undrafted free agents list this year. The ones that we signed in the undrafteds. Oh my goodness. There's going to be 3 or 4 people on that list of undrafted free agents we picked up that are going to be contributors to this team for sure. Usually you'll find maybe one out of that list that's going to be a contributor in games for you. The last couple years we've had a couple that have stood out really well. We've had Kader Kohu, who is our starting nickel cornerback now. We had Storm Duck, who played a lot last year in lieu of injured players. Storm Duck played so much last year, he grew a ton. And he was playing well. I wouldn't say he's the best cornerback in the league or anything like that, or even top 10. But he improved every time he was on the field. And if you watch deeper than just what you see on TV, or even if you watch what you see on TV multiple times, you'll see the improvement in Storm Duck. The man grew every time he touched the field. That's all you can hope for, especially from an undrafted free agent. Knowing that Storm Duck played like that encourages me for this year coming up, because no one's talking about him. Everybody's talking about we need cornerbacks. Well, we do. I agree with that. But the situation isn't quite as dire as everybody wants it to be. We do have Storm Duck. Cam Smith is whatever. I'm so close to writing Cam Smith off. Just because the man, he's had multiple chances, and he ends up getting beat out by an undrafted free agent in Storm Duck to play over him. He's had some opportunities and just hasn't really maximized any of his opportunities. Even Ethan Bonner maximized one of his opportunities a couple years ago when he got to play in the playoff game against the Chiefs, the Ice Bowl in the cold. Ethan Bonner played well in that game. I know a lot of our players didn't. But Ethan Bonner played pretty decent in that game. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. I can't guarantee that I know what's going to happen for the year, but I'm encouraged by where we're sitting right now. And there are things going on in free agency as we speak that are going to help with that. So what I want to do is I want to dig into our depth chart, where we're at right now. It's like I said, there are some dry spots, but we've closed up a lot of the issues that we had in the draft, and I'm happy with where we are right now. We got plenty of time still to work out this cornerback situation. So I'm just going to go down the list and we'll talk about some of this stuff, okay? I'm going to do defense last. I want to start with offense, and then we'll work our way into the defense. So our quarterbacks are set for the season. I don't see anything changing there. I don't see Quinn Ewers taking over the number 2 QB spot that's held by Zach Wilson. I see Zach Wilson being our backup quarterback, and it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. Zach Wilson made incredible improvements last year in Denver when he was there. He played fantastic in preseason. Didn't get much of a chance during the season because, Bo Nix was playing very well. Speaking of Bo Nix, and no offense to him, but I don't see that same amount of success this year for him. I think that this might end up being kind of his rookie slump. I think he's a good quarterback, and he's going to be the Denver Broncos quarterback for a long time. I think I see that happening. He's got a lot of talent, and he's going to grow. But I see a slight setback this year for him. That's just a hunch. No real evidence pointing that way. But Zach Wilson grew in Denver, and he played well, and everybody there had a lot to say for him. And the reason Zach Wilson left is because he wanted a chance to try to prove himself. So he takes this deal with Miami. It's good pay. It's not a bad contract for him at all. But his thought process, I can guarantee you, is that he thinks Tua's probably going to get hurt. Does he want Tua to get hurt? No, I don't think that. I don't think he's like that. But I think he wants to be able to have a chance to play. And this is the kind of situation where he can maybe get in. He has a good chance of it just by how Tua has had a hard time staying healthy. So Tua's obviously QB1. Zach Wilson is the backup quarterback, and Quinn Ewers will be bringing up the rear. Quinn Ewers is known for playing through injury and being extremely tough. Not the kind of guy that gives up. Not that kind of quarterback. And that's a good thing to have on the team. You don't want your third string quarterback going out. Obviously, if he's in the game, there's a reason for it, and we can't have him getting hurt. So it's good to know that we have a tough quarterback sitting back there at the QB3 spot, and he's capable of playing decent. So I would say this quarterback room is light years ahead of any quarterback room we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. 4 years. At least 4 years. Probably even longer than that. So, and that's with Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers backing up Tua. I mean, it could be even better, but this is what we have. This is where we're at. And that's not a bad place to be. Tua, Zach Wilson, Quinn Ewers. We should be okay with that going into the season. Like I said, this is Tua's prove it season. He's really got some things to prove. Number one, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? If he can, that's going to equal more wins for us because when Tua plays, we do pretty well, except for the occasional game. And that brings me to my next point. If Tua stays healthy, he's got to get over the yips whenever we play a good team or when the game matters. He's got to get over it. He's got to be able to lead this team to a victory when we need a win. He's got to be able to do it. Can he do it? I don't know. But as somebody who's wearing a hat with this emblem on it and all those emblems back there on the wall and jerseys and everything else, I don't want him to fail. I want Tua to succeed. Why? Because he's our quarterback. I want him to work out. And the only way to tell if that's going to happen, if it happens, great. If not, I think that this is going to end up being probably the beginning of the end for Tua if he doesn't pan out this year. Now I know that we're technically into soft rebuild, but if Tua gets hurt again, I don't see him making it much longer with this team because we have a coaching change or we have a GM change or anything like that. They're not going to want to deal with Tua and the injuries unless Tua can somehow turn this around. So that's what we should hope for as a team, is that for that to stop. And then we look at the running back room. You have at the running back room, I'm super happy with right now. I don't know how I feel about Devon Achane being our number one running back. Not anything against Devon Achane. Let me clarify that. I don't have anything against Devon Achane. He's a magnificent player. But I think it would be better to use him situationally in the running back position and use him more as the slot receiver. Wide receiver 3, running back number 2. And I would put the starting job at running back either to Jalen Wright, probably Jalen Wright. We have and I'll get into the line in a minute here, but Jalen Wright has an opportunity this year to show massive growth. And it's not really because of anything he might be doing, but the fact that our line is different this year. There are people who are wonderful run blockers on our offensive line now. With that, I can see Jalen Wright really making strides this year. So Devon Achane, Jalen Wright, number 2, right now as our depth chart. It has, and right now, if he was a running back, Devon Achane's our starter. Jalen Wright's number 2, and it has Alexander Mattison as number 3 and Ollie Gordon as number 4. I would switch right now, knowing nothing more than what I know. I would switch Ollie Gordon with Alexander Mattison. Ollie Gordon is an angry runner, and he is an amazing blocker. I want Ollie Gordon to get snaps. I want him in the game. And the good thing about Ollie Gordon is he's big enough and physical enough and good enough blocker where he would be a fantastic fullback. Not all the time, because he does have a good steps, and he is able to bust holes. So it would be good to have him running the ball occasionally as a running back, but also having him able to be used as a fullback. That's huge. Because Alec Ingold does get hurt occasionally. He plays a very physical position. So having Ollie Gordon able to come in and out as fullback as well, that would just keep Alec Ingold fresh. And we all know the story with Alec Ingold. Everybody loves Alec Ingold, and rightfully so. So that's our running back situation. There's not much we need to change there. So lock running back and QB down. That we're good. I don't want to change much there. That leaves us with 4 running backs. And there's also 1 or 2 on the undrafted free agent list that we could have. And I'm okay with that too. I'm okay with, one of them bringing, because a lot of teams like to go 5 running backs for the season. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. Wide receiver, I think we're set. Especially with the 2 big wide receivers we signed as undrafted free agents. We have 2 very large, good wide receivers that we picked up in an undrafted free agency, and I don't even understand how they didn't get drafted. It's fantastic pickups for us. Like I said, I see 4 or 5 of our undrafted free agents making the team. 1 or 2 of them are going to be those big receivers that we picked up. But without those guys, what we have is Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Nick Westbrook-Akine as our starting 3 wide receivers. Backing them up, you have Malik Washington, Taj Washington, D. Eskridge, and Eric Ezekama. If we end up having 1 or 2 of those big receivers that we picked up as undrafted free agent rookies, if we pick one of them up and end up having them on the team, I could see Eric Ezekama getting phased out. And I would quite honestly be okay with that, because Eric Ezekama cannot stay healthy, and he doesn't do anything. He hasn't grown. He hasn't improved his game at all since he's been here. It's the same old story with him. So it's sad, because I was excited about him when we got him. But with the neck injury and a couple other injuries and everything else, he just hasn't panned out. Maybe he could do better with a different team. But that takes us to tight end. And with the tight end room, also signed another rookie undrafted free agent in the tight end room. But aside from that, we have Johnny Smith, Julian Hill, Pharaoh Brown, and Tanner Connor. Our tight end room is set. I would not look for, and obviously fullback is Alec Ingold. So fullback, tight end, wide receiver, running back, and quarterback, I wouldn't expect any changes. I wouldn't expect any different players to come in at those positions before the season starts. And the way that they look, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with those players and the depth that we have at those positions, especially if a couple of those undrafted free agents work out like I think they will. It's not bad, not a bad situation at all. Now, when we get to the offensive line here, this is where we see changes, and these are good changes. Our starting 5 offensive linemen right now, you have left tackle Patrick Paul, you have left guard Jonah Savanea, you have right guard James Daniels, and right tackle, it looks like it's going to be Austin Jackson as of right now. However, that could very well change. So right now, and you have Aaron Brewer as our center. So Jonah Savanea, Austin Jackson, James Daniels, Aaron Brewer, Patrick Paul. That is a much more capable offensive line than we've had in a few years. Yes, we had some good players, Robert Hunt and a couple other guys, but the problem is there was always big holes in our offensive line, even when we had them. The big hole usually being Liam Eichenberg. But with those starting 5 that we have, and some of the backups that we have who have stepped up and have been doing better in the last year or so, that nobody seems to be talking about, Keon Smith, and who was the other guy that was impressing? Bayron Matos. He hasn't played. He hasn't had much chances, but the times that he's gotten in on practice and stuff, a lot of the coaches are really encouraged by him. Like I said, there's a little depth there that we need still. There are some good players that we've picked up in undrafted free agency from after the draft. Very well could see one of those players, or possibly 2, end up making the team. One's a tackle, one's a guard. They're both from Western Michigan. They're good players. Another set of players that should have really been drafted but just didn't get drafted. So as far as the offense goes, we're pretty set. I would like to see us pick up another guard out of free agency, and the names are the same as the names that I've been saying for 4 months. Dalton Risner from Minnesota, Will Hernandez from Arizona. Those are the 2 main ones. Brandon Scherf is available, but he's going to command a little more money than what Will Hernandez or Dalton Risner would be. Dalton Risner recovered from a back injury. He'll be fine for the season coming up, but was let go because of a nagging back injury. Like I said, better now, looking for a team. He wouldn't need much money, and he would take a 1-year contract because he would want to prove himself. Also, it's the same thing with Will Hernandez. I would be stoked to pick up Will Hernandez. If we did that, that would give a little more depth to our offensive line. And like I said, he's just the same as Dalton Risner. Would sign a 1-year contract for a little bit of money immediately because he's on a kind of in a prove it mode with his injury that he's recovered from. Obviously, both those players would be good to go this year, and they would both have something to prove. And they both have fantastic work ethics. They're very coachable, and they play with a little chip on their shoulder, which is right in line with the rest of this offensive line that we seem to be putting together this year. They're not going to be pulling punches, and I'm excited for it. I think that adding just an offensive lineman or 2 in free agency would be all we'd need on offense. That's basically where we're at on offense. Not much needed. Pretty well set on offense. And I'm happy about it. So, I mean, not much there that's needed, guys. Just maybe 1 or 2 offensive linemen for depth, and that's it. The big question on the offensive line is, can these players stay healthy and play together for the season? I'd like to think that they can and will, but you got to play the game for a reason, and you got to play the season for a reason. So if we end up getting a lot of injuries on the offensive line, that's why I say it would be nice to have a Dalton Risner or a Will Hernandez that are right there ready to go. Will Hernandez and Dalton Risner can both play a few positions up and down the offensive line, and that'd be good to have. And in that situation, that is the only situation where I would be okay with having a Liam Eichenberg on this team, is for the dire situation where we have multiple injuries on the offensive line. However, I do not think that's going to happen this year. We might have a couple boo-boos here and there, but for the most part, I feel like this offensive line is going to be able to stick together and play together this season. And if that happens, if they all stick together and they don't get a lot of injuries, I see us going from the 31st ranked offensive line in the NFL to about 12 to 15. And that improvement, not even that much, just getting us to the middle of the range. And as far as offensive linemen go, that would be enough to help this team immensely on this offense, especially in every aspect. Better run blocking. Obviously, we know what that would mean. Not only would that help our running backs just get more yardage, that would help on third down. That would help in goal line situations. Having running backs that are having offensive linemen that are able to block downfield, that are able to get into the second string of players, get into the linebackers, get into the safeties, make some blocks in the run game, get to that second level. If we did that, if the offensive line plays like anything close to like I think they're going to play this year, we're going to see a better goal line team. We're going to see a better third down team. We're going to see better running game. You're going to see more than 90 yards average per game. Also, better pass blocking. Not just better run blocking, but better pass blocking. You're going to see a change there as well. 2.37 seconds or 2.27 seconds for Tua to throw a ball. I don't care who you are. That's not enough time. What are you going to be able to do in that amount of time? You're going to be able to complete short passes, screen passes, and flat passes. No quarterback is going to be able to do much more than that. And when you have an offense that's stuck in that route because they can't even run the ball because our offensive line can't get into the second level and make blocks and can't open holes, when you have a team like that, all you can do is use the short pass game as a running game and hope for the best. And that's what we saw last year. Missed me with the whole it's Mike McDaniel's fault. Kept calling the same screens. What choice did he have? He had no choice. And I'm not making all the excuses in the world for Mike McDaniel. He could have done a lot of things better. But blaming him for the lack of different plays and the lack of different things that we did on offense, missed me with that. It's not his fault. We had an offensive line that could not provide a run game opportunity or a middle to deep passing game opportunity because Tua had 2.2 to 2.3 seconds to throw the ball. This year, I think with this offensive line, you're going to see that jump dramatically. With the ability that an offensive line has to make a block in pass protection or to make blocks in the running game and get to that second level, you will see an improvement in both aspects of offense, running and passing. And with that, with the ability to just do either one of those things, that is how you can be creative. That's how you unlock that ability to be creative with your play calling. It doesn't matter if you call a middle to deep pass when the defense knows you're not going to be able to have time to let the receivers get downfield. As soon as they see that, they're all coming towards the quarterback. If you have a running situation, but you know that the team that you're defending can't run the ball, and you know that the only thing they can do is a short pass, screen pass, or flat pass, guess what you're going to tee up on as a defense? You're going to tee up on the skirts. You're going to tee up on those places and watch for the screens because that's all they can do. So Mike McDaniel was caught between a rock and a hard place with this offense. He didn't have the ability to do anything different. With this improved offensive line, I see that changing. I see that getting a little better, and it's going to allow for much different opportunities on offense for us. A little more like the year before, a little more like even the year before that. With that, I see an opportunity, a path for more wins. If we can do a couple things on defense differently this year, or at least add a couple players here that I'm going to talk about in a minute when I get to defense, if we can do that, I don't see any way we finish 8-9 or worse. I see an improvement from last year. Once again, the big things that I talked about on offense, the big thing for the offense right now is add one more offensive lineman. Just one more. One more guard. Add a guard. Have Keon Smith as a backup tackle. I'm happy with that. And a couple other players. Fine. Keon Smith is actually playing a lot better and has been improving. I'm happy with him. I'd be happy to have him as a backup. Liam Eichenberg can be 10th or 11th lineman. I'm happy with that too. That's fine. I don't care. I don't think they're going to get rid of him, so I'm not going to sit there and complain and say we need to get rid of Liam Eichenberg. That's pointless. I don't think they're going to. I'd be okay having him as a backup. A late backup. Way back backup. But Tua needs to stay healthy. That's number one. And he's got to get over this important game yips that he keeps getting. This is a prove-it year for Tua. He can't stay healthy and he can't get over some of the stuff that he's had going on. It's going to be the beginning of the end for him. That and add a guard. That's the keys right now for the offense. That's it. Skill positions on offense are set. We're good. Could things get better? Sure. They could always get better. You can always improve your team. But where they are right now, I think they're set on offense, especially the skill positions. And I think we're going to roll with that for the season, and I'm okay with that. We've added players at certain parts that are going to help us in the goal line and short yardage. Ollie Gordon, Pharaoh Brown, a better offensive line. Do you really think adding those players that are known for their blocking, their short pass game, their running ability, their bruiser mentality, the big running back, Pharaoh Brown is great blocking and ability to run a short route off of a chip. Do you think adding those players is going to result, and adding players to our offensive line that are dogs, do you think that's all going to equate to a worse goal line or similar third down situation type plays? Nope. There's no way. That's an improvement, a massive one. So that's where we're at with offense. It's kind of, could be worse, could be better, but I think it's better than it has been, and I'm encouraged with our offense right now. I want to see how it goes. I want to see what happens. The tricky part, ladies and gentlemen, is the defense. Now, Anthony Weaver is a man amongst boys. I like Anthony Weaver, and he's got a little challenge set up for him this year. But let me ask you a question. If you have a small weakness if you have a weakness, let's say, in your cornerback room, in your defensive backs, the backfield of your defense, how do you counter that? You counter it with very large men on the defensive line. You counter it with an amazing pass rush. Pass rush is how you help a weak defensive back room. If we went into the season right now with what we have, I don't think it would be great on defense. However, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world, and here's why. If we look at this depth chart for our defense, it's a base 3-4 defense, okay? So you're looking at 3 down linemen, but in reality, the 3 down linemen turn into 5 because the Sam and the Will linebacker, that's basically your left and right outside linebacker, come up near the line, and they're on the line. That's kind of what a 3-4 is. So then you wind up with 5 men essentially near the line of scrimmage and 2 middle linebackers. That's the beauty of the 3-4 because you can run that way, or you can have those 2 Sam and Will linebackers pop back as soon as the ball is snapped. Kind of gives a false front to the offensive line, slight confusion. They pop back. The offensive line's a little like, whoa, what's going on here? And then you could also, off of that, you could bring linebackers through. A lot of different opportunities in the 3-4 defense. That's what we run. And that allows for a creative defensive coordinator to do different things. So, here's what we're looking at right now. And these players that we drafted at nose tackle. So, Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, Benito Jones, and Neil Farrell. Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips are nose tackles, but they also have the ability to play the defensive end positions, which technically isn't really our defensive ends with a 3-4. It's just you have 2 tackles and you have a nose tackle. Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, and Benito Jones. Benito Jones, not as much, but Jordan Phillips and Kenneth Grant can either play nose tackle or they can play the other techniques right outside of them, right outside of nose tackle at the tackles or defensive ends. Those 2 players, Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips, can play all those techniques, and they would be comparable. They would be competitive. So you're looking at Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, Benito Jones, Neil Farrell, Zach Sealer. Those are your interior defensive linemen. That's one heck of a combination in there. And a lot of those players can bounce from side to side, and they can even line head up on that nose tackle or on the center. It's good to have those players. I'm happy with that. I don't see... Oh, and Matt Dickerson. I forgot about him. He might play here and there. He's not as bad as everybody thinks he is. He just hasn't had much opportunity. Like I said, this year there's a definite chance that he might, with a good offseason, he might be able to work his way in. So Matt Dickerson, Neil Farrell, Benito Jones, Jordan Phillips, Kenneth Grant, Zach Sealer. I'm not too turned down from that. I like it. With that, we have our Will linebackers and our Sam linebackers, which is effectively our edge rushers. So let's look at it. This is where the most of the pass rush comes from in a 3-4 defense. That's the 2 linebackers that are our outside linebackers. They step up onto the line, or they stay back a little bit and rush anyway, or they drop back into coverage, depending on what the offense. This is an impressive room. Okay, let's talk about. I'm just gonna say Bell, Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, Cameron Good, Mo Kamara, Grayson Murphy, and William Bradley King. That's one heck of a combination to have. So I don't have any problems there with our defensive line right now. I'm encouraged with what we have at defensive line. We also picked up a couple other guys. You know, we have some other dudes that are going to be able to come in if they make the team, if they show a little bit of promise in the off season. You know, you have Biggers that we signed at the end of the 7th round. He is huge. 6'6" or 6'7", 315 pounds. Guy's just giant. And he's got a little bit of speed on him. Like I said, when we delve into the draft picks tomorrow, when I'm over with Finn's Forecast on their live stream, we're really going to get into these draft picks, and we'll talk about all that. But with that, that's a strong defensive line, a strong defensive front, and an amazing edge room. So with the edge rushers, I'm so excited to see how this defensive line plays. That is a strong enough defensive line to take a lot of responsibility off and a lot of stress off of our defensive back room. I guess that's the best way to say it. I'm super excited for it. And then right there behind in the linebacker position, our middle linebackers, um, or I guess you can't really say middle. I guess the proper term is inside linebackers. Inside linebacker room, our starters are Tyrell Dodson and Jordan Brooks, and their backups will be KJ Britt, Willie Gay, and Channing Tindall. I don't give a flying flip about Channing Tindall until he does something at some point to show that he can learn a freaking playbook. That's the thing about Channing Tindall. He has the intangibles. He has the ability to play the position. But he doesn't know how to play it because he can't learn a playbook. That's been the problem with him since we picked him up. At what point does this dude take a freaking hooked on phonics class and learn to friggin' read? That's where I'm at with him. Both, proven veterans, they can handle it. Those are our backups. Tyrell Dodson and Jordan Brooks, we know the deal with those guys. They can handle this too. I actually like our middle linebackers. I said it again. Our inside linebackers, sorry, need to be proper. I like our inside linebackers. I'm happy with that. We could always add one more, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. That's one of those things that we could go out and find one more linebacker. Totally cool. Totally cool. But if we had to go at it today with those linebackers, I'd be okay with that. So now we run into some of the issues. Let's talk about safeties first. I know it's out of order, but I kind of feel like the safety situation is a little better. So we'll start with that. Ife Melifonwu is going to be a starter. He just needs to stay healthy. That's his main thing. He's going to be a starter. Ashton Davis is right now. He's our other starter. That might not stay that way. I see Ashton Davis more as a situational type of player. Really, really good on the blitz. Really, really good kind of sliding into that nickelish area. Not as the nickel, but into that more shallow free safety type of play. I'd be more comfortable having him in that situational. We also picked up Dante Trader this year. And like I said, I'll get into some of these players tomorrow on the live stream with Finn's forecast. But Dante Trader is encouraging. Don't let that 5th round pick label scare you. He was going to be a top 100 player. And it's just that injury right before the right before the draft is just kind of screwed his position over. But it's a good pickup by Miami, and like I said, he was very highly touted in college, so very highly respected, especially not just by his team, but teams that played against him. So Ashton Davis, Ife Melifonwu, Elijah Campbell, and Patrick McMorris. Elijah Campbell and Patrick McMorris both show a lot of promise. Both could be. Patrick McMorris is a guy to watch because he got hurt last year and was playing lights out in preseason and in training camp and all of that in the off season. He was doing wonderfully. Everybody loved him, talking about how he was likely going to make a big impact. Then he got hurt. So doing much better, very healthy, constantly in the Dolphins locker room and office right now. I would expect him to make a big step this year. If he does, that would be a huge break for us in Miami. Now, with that, you have Elijah Campbell kind of in the same boat. I want to see him and Patrick McMorris make big steps this year. They have the ability to play the position. So looking at them and looking at Ife and Ashton Davis, I would really like to add just one more safety. And my thoughts go immediately to the perfect scheme fit that I can find. That's Julian Blackman out of Indianapolis. He's not going to command a lot of money to sign him. He'll take a 1 or 2 year contract for sure. And like I said, we could pick him up very inexpensively, and he would be a fantastic addition. He could be a starter immediately, and he's a scheme fit. He understands the 3-4, and he's a headhunter. He plays hard. I would be super happy to have Julian Blackmon on this team. There's also Jordan Whitehead, another addition we could look into. I don't think he'd be as good of a fit as Julian Blackmon, but I would be okay with him as well. There's options in free agency to pick up a safety. Now, moving to cornerback. Cornerback. We have 3 nickelbacks on this team right now. You have Kader Kohu, Artie Burns, and Jason Maitre. I like Jason Maitre a lot. I want to see what he can do. Hopefully he steps up this year and can get a chance to play a little more. If he does that, that frees up Kader Kohu to play different positions. He does have experience, Kader Kohu, playing the outside, playing on an island. It's not necessarily the thing he is the best at, but like I said, more opportunities results in improvement most of the time for these kind of players. Kader Kohu is a dog, and he was an undrafted free agent too. So I like him a lot. I think we're set at nickelback. The part that we need help with is our cornerback positions, left and right. Right now, our starters are for the left and right cornerback position is Storm Duck and Ethan Bonner. Because Jalen Ramsey is going to be gone. So Storm Duck and Ethan Bonner are our starters right now at cornerback 1 and cornerback 2. We also just picked up Jason Marshall Jr. In the 5th round. He could very well end up working out. I don't know. He's a 5th round player. I'll get into his pros and cons and things he's good at, things he's bad at. We'll talk about all that tomorrow when I'm over on Finn's Forecast channel talking about this draft and these players that we picked up. But for now, Jason Marshall is an option. Also Isaiah Johnson. Cam Smith is Cam Smith. Like I said, he's almost in the same boat as Channing Tindall for me. He just doesn't have the ability to take it serious enough to actually learn. So I don't know about him. Cam Smith he's like I said, Chris Greer said that he's not going to be able to hold his hand anymore. He's going to have to step up, and I agree. If he doesn't, kick him out, get him gone. We don't need him on the team if he can't get past last year's as a 2nd round pick. He can't get past last year's undrafted free agent and Storm Duck. Storm Duck does better than him. Storm Duck has improved every time he's touched the field, and he's gotten better and better every time he's played. Cam Smith can't even touch Storm Duck right now. That is sad. Not for Storm Duck. That's impressive for Storm Duck. But it's very sad to know that Cam Smith is deservedly lower on the depth chart than Storm Duck is. Storm Duck and Ethan Bonner, I do feel like could be serviceable backups. I don't know if Storm Duck's able to step up in that position right now to be a starter as a cornerback. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I would like to be able to let him continue to grow slowly. Cornerback, Storm Duck is worth keeping at cornerback, just not maybe a starter. As long as Storm Duck keeps improving, he will be a starter eventually. How crazy would that be to have 2 undrafted free agents starting at cornerback for the Miami Dolphins? Well, we might actually see it before we want to. So with the cornerback situation, that's where we really need something. We need 2 cornerbacks for sure. Ideally, likely what I see happening is us getting 1 cornerback, an experienced one from free agency. I see us getting 1 cornerback, and I see Storm Duck starting at the other side. That's what I see happening. I would like to be able to pick up 2 cornerbacks. And keep in mind, there's things on this roster that we can do to keep some money and to get enough to be able to do the few signings that I said, which were 2 cornerbacks, maybe 1 safety, maybe 1 middle linebacker. And these aren't starters for middle linebacker, but I would think maybe 1 middle linebacker would be decent. And as far as offense goes, 1 more guard. We could be able to make enough money, free up enough money to be able to do that relatively easily. I mean, shoot, if we We have Ryan Stonehouse as our kicker or a punter, and Ryan Stonehouse is way better than Jake Bailey. Jake Bailey has been kind of on the shopping block for a while. We cut Jake Bailey, we saved $4 million right there. That's enough to sign Will Hernandez, the guard that I think we should get. That's enough to sign Julian Blackmon, the free safety that I think we should pick up. That's that right there. That solves one of the issues. Now there's also, let's see. Let me look at cornerback availability here. There's a couple interesting notes to make about what's available as far as cornerback goes in free agency right now. There are rumors right now that Miami is in negotiations with Rasul Douglas, and I'd be totally stoked about that if I woke up tomorrow morning and found out that we signed Rasul Douglas. So hopefully that pans out. But all right, let's see. Let's go here. So Rasul Douglas, he's got experience in the division, and I think that he would probably take around $7 million, $5 to $8 million to sign. His last contract was $7 million. So this would be a significant investment, not something that would kill us, but it would be an investment for us to sign Rasul Douglas. He's 30 years old. He's not incredibly young, but he is a good player and would fill the role nicely. Also, for about the same price, Kendall Fuller is available still. It's another option Miami has. He's got experience with the team. He played decent enough. Wasn't like overwhelmingly good, but could fill in, for us this year, especially while we were trying to figure out the cornerback situation. I'd be okay with him. Stephon Gilmore's available, but he's 35 years old, so I don't really necessarily think that's a good idea. But he is available. Yeah, I think you should just stay away from any cornerback from Cincinnati. So don't even think Mike Hilton, please. There's another couple here that I was interested in. Michael Davis from Washington. He's 30 years old, but right around a $3 million player. You could get him very inexpensively, and since we need two, you could pair him up with if we get Rasul Douglas, pair him up, and that would be perfect. I'd be okay with that totally. Asante Samuel's available. He's 25 years old, and he took a $2 million contract last time for his last contract. This is going to be his first, contract outside of his rookie contract, but it probably wouldn't be much more. He definitely need a pay raise, but nothing crazy. Eli Apple is available. No, let's stay away from Eli Apple, please. Let's see what else. Trayvon Mullen from Baltimore. I would be okay with even signing him. He's 27 years old. He would be due his first contract really outside of his rookie contract. His last contract was like $1 million a quarter. So he would need a little bit of money to come in. But like I said, these players, there's a lot of cornerbacks, and a lot of them would be good scheme fits. All the ones that I've mentioned so far are scheme fits. Let's see. Daryl Worley is another one that I think would be okay. He's 30 years old. Another cheap contract from Tennessee. There's players, is what I'm saying. We could easily pick up a couple cornerbacks in free agency to help us out. And I think if with that and with the players we have, we could easily fill these few needs that we have on this team. Maybe not to be the most amazing cornerback or defensive back room in the game, but enough to be serviceable, especially playing behind a fantastic defensive line. Like I know it's hard, it's weird to say. It's almost seems wrong that I'm saying it, but we have a fantastic defensive front on this team. And if they stay healthy, I will move that statement from fantastic to amazing. This is the kind of defensive front that a lot of defensive backs dream about. So, there's so much talk about coverage sacks, when the defensive backs put out such good coverage that linemen that don't even have a chance to make a play all of a sudden get a sack because there was nobody for the quarterback to throw to. Well, there's the opposite of that, and I think that we're going to see a lot of that this year on our team. I think that we're going to see a serviceable defensive back room being held up by an amazing defensive front. That's kind of what I see happening, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that. Like I said, I am encouraged by the commonalities that I see coming out of the draft for the picks for Miami. I'm encouraged by the fact that they're fighters, that they want to hurt people. I like the attitude of these players that we've signed all the way through the 7th round. All of them. They all carry that same label. Fighters. People that play with a chip on their shoulder. I want to see it. So, pardon me. That's where I'm at here. And that's the things that we need to do to finish this off and continue next year. We also gained another 3rd round pick in the draft for next year. And we also are going to have a couple of compensatory picks. So you're looking at next year another 9, 10, 11 player draft, which would be fantastic. What we can't do this year is we can't get rid of our draft picks for next year. We can't do that. We can gain them, but we cannot give up draft picks. In this little soft rebuild that no one wants to admit that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So don't let Chris Greer fool you. We're in a soft rebuild. But the perk of a soft rebuild is that you're not putting out a product that you think is going to lose every game. It's not like that. This is a team that can still win some games. I see a path forward. It's a small path, but I see a path forward in this. And hopefully you can too after watching this. I see a path where we can win more games than we did last year. I see a path, albeit small, where we can get into a playoff situation and possibly win a game. But it's going to take the things that I've talked about in this video to happen in order for that to happen. Can it happen? I don't know. And this is the fine line that you have to walk, as a fan. I want to say Super Bowl. I want to say, here we go. We're going to win. We're going to win every game. 14-3. That's, as a fan, that's what you want to say. But as an evaluator of this football team and somebody who, as a realist, you recognize that we're in a soft rebuild. You see it. You see the evidence of it. And you know that that's not really likely at all. But is it possible to get enough wins to get into the playoffs and maybe win a game? Oh, yeah, that's possible. There's a path for it. There's a path to go undefeated, but I doubt it's going to happen. I think that path is so small that we'd fall off as soon as we tried. So, anything's possible, guys and gals. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to maintain a hopeful attitude and mentality. And I'm going to evaluate this team fairly and objectively. What I'm not going to do is trash talk players. What I'm not going to do is hope for failure. You will never see me hoping for failure. Not something I'm going to do. I hope for success. I root for success. I don't watch my team hoping they'll win. That's ridiculous. So I evaluate this team. I evaluate the things they do. I think that Chris Greer, if he was the one that did this draft, if he was the one that made these calls, these decisions in the draft, I think he did a good job. Do I like Chris Greer? Nope. Nope, I don't. But I can give props where they're due. And if Chris Greer is the one that orchestrated this draft, he did a good job. I think it more likely that somebody else was making the decisions in this draft, personally. And if that's the case, then good job. Whoever it was, good job. But Anthony Weaver's got some work to do. He's got to find a way to make this work. He's got to find a way to get the defense off the field and get the offense the ball when the situation isn't ideally perfect. He's got some work to do in the cornerback room and the defensive back area. I think he can do it. I think he can figure out a way to put a product on the field for defense that's going to be successful. I think the offense has that ability too. So, gun to my head, if I had to choose or pick a record for Miami at this point, from where we are right now, a realistic one, I would say a max of 10-7 right now. If I had to pick, 10-7 would be my prediction for the season. But if you've been watching any of my videos, up until right before the draft, that prediction was a max of 8-9. I think is what I said last time I did the whole gun to your head. What would you choose for a season record right now? I think that was about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, maybe. I said 8-9 at a max as a maximum availability or maximum situation. More realistically, I was thinking 6-12, or I'm sorry, 6-11. So, it's my thoughts on the season has improved because the draft improved our situation. So I'm changing my thought processes as we go through this offseason. We started over here, and now we're kind of, over here. It's a constantly moving pendulum, so you never know how everything's going to work out. All you can do is make educated guesses, and that's where I'm at right now. I think a ceiling of 10-7. And if we improve a few more things, I think that's going to improve for me too. But if we don't change anything else, if we go into this season with the gaping hole at cornerback, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's gonna be rough. I'm not so worried about Storm Duck as I am about the other cornerback position. But we'll see what happens. I'm getting on, going too long here, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming in here and listening to me yammer away about this team. Hopefully, I explained all that pretty well. If you have not subscribed, please do that. Make sure you throw a like down on your way out. If you have any comments, anything you want to ask, go ahead and do that. I answer every comment, and I appreciate each of you for coming in here. Thank you. Until I talk to you guys again, fins up. Stay